Good evening. I hereby convene Westchester Township Trustee meeting, December 17, 2013. Mr. Jones, roll call.
Mr. Wong?
Here.
Mrs. Stoker?
Here.
Mr. Lang?
Present.
Please arise for the Pledge of Allegiance.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
First block of the meeting is citizens' comment. In light of tonight, we're going to make an exception because in light of Ms. Trustee Stoker, this is our last meeting. There's quite a few people who want to come up to say a few words. So we're going to extend the comments to more than 10 minutes. So first person sign up is Mr. Steve Rynell. Please state your name and address for the record.
Yes, I'm Stephen Rynell, 8108 Long Meadow Drive, Westchester, Ohio. I'm here tonight to speak for Catherine. We moved here 22 years ago. So I met Catherine during her first term, and it was because of Voice America was being changed over. You know, we used to listen to, and we were trying to think of the song today. It was either Yankee Doodle Dandy over the TV and the phone. We're trying to think of the song, and it was every day. And but sure enough, that got shut down, and there was an article in the paper, and they had this whole design for the park, and the government was going to take part of it, the federal government, and they're going to allow Westchester to keep some, and they wanted to sell off some because, of course, they wanted to make a little bit of money. I don't blame them. But it was mixed-use amenities across the whole frontage. So, in other words, what you see from Cox to 75, they wanted on the Voice America property the same exact thing, and so the residents came here and kind of said, hey, Kohl's is built, stop the commercial down there, and Catherine right away said, yeah, it makes sense. The other two trustees at the time and the administrator were kind of standoffish, but Catherine helped push the issue, and so when you're driving down Tylersville Road, you're not looking at a bunch more gas stations and businesses. They're up on the corner and up the road. And I appreciate everything you've done. Linda Roslow was supposed to be here tonight, too. She's another great lady of the community. And sure enough, tonight she's watching out for a neighbor. So she won't make it tonight. And also, I appreciate her time here, too. So, hey, thanks again, Catherine.
Thank you, Steve.
Next on the list is Ms. Donna Nickel.
My name is Donna Nickel. I live at 7750 Shenandoah Court in Westchester. I am here tonight to say thank you, and the biggest letters I can possibly think of, to Catherine for her service. And I know just the work you've done, the research that you've put into issues as they come up, the thoughtfulness that you've given your decisions, and I think what I'd like to offer you to think about on down the road, that you have become the conscience of Westchester and Westchester government. And we thank you for that, because I believe there are a lot of things that could have happened and shouldn't have, that didn't happen because you questioned them and thought of better solutions, perhaps. So we love you. We're going to miss you being on TV and talking, but we hope that you do come to occasional meetings just to stir it up, if nothing else.
Thank you, Donna.
Thank you, Donna.
Ms. Christy Miller.
Good evening. My name is Christy Miller, 8013 Eagle Ridge Drive. I just wanted to come up here and say thank you, a huge thank you, both on a professional level and on a personal level. You are a woman who has existed in politics for 20 years. That is a huge accomplishment, and it's something that we should scream to the mountaintops so that girls can see that they do have a future in politics if they so choose. You are a leader among women. You are a woman of excellence. And I want to thank you from a personal level for being a mentor to me for several years and guiding me in how to maneuver the political waters of the world. They're not easy to maneuver by any stretch of the imagination, but you have become a master at it, and you know how to get things done, and you do them for the right reasons. So I just want to say thank you. We will miss you in Westchester. There is no question about that. You have some mighty big shoes to fill, Mark, so keep that in mind. And I just want to say enjoy the time that you have now to go be with your granddaughter and to spend time with your husband and not have to worry about this anymore. Thank you.
Thank you, Christy. Mr. Matt Morris.
Thank you, Christy.
I'm Mark Morris. I live at 8876 Eagleview Court in Westchester. I, too, would like to thank Catherine for her 20 years of service to the township and to the residents of Westchester. But I also want to talk about some business, too. I was going through some records, and I found that in 2009, at the December 15th meeting, the township approved the law director's contract. When I received the advance that they sent out, the draft for the agenda for tonight's meeting, I noticed that that was not on the agenda for tonight. And I thought, well, maybe it's just an oversight. So then I picked up a copy when I came in the door tonight, and I still saw that it was not on there. And according to the documents that I have obtained, his contract is due to run out on the 31st of this month, expire. So I'm hoping that the township will see this as an oversight and either vote to either renew his contract at this meeting or deny it, because that's going to leave us without a law director for the first 2 weeks of January. Thank you.
Thank you. I have time for one more person.
Anybody?
Okay. Let's move on to Mrs. Boyko, presentations.
This evening, we'd like to recognize Mrs. Linda Rossolo and her late husband, Jim Rossolo, who were pioneers in the organic and cottage-like produce for Westchester. First, they initiated their industry privately with their feed barn facility on Cincinnati-Dayton Road. And then through relocation of that facility, they took that concept, and they were the authors of the Westchester Farmers Market presented by First Financial Bank. And because of life circumstances, she's no longer going to be able to be the manager and operator of this fine amenity for the township. And we wanted to recognize and bestow our deepest appreciation to her and upon her for that effort and that leadership. Unfortunately, she's not able to be here with us this evening, but we wanted to at least represent what what Barb's department, Integrated Multimedia Marketing Department, has created for her as a token of the Board of Trustees and the community's appreciation. And I think it's quite lovely. It's a collage of the market with a watermark of the market in the background, and then just mementos and pictures of the events.
That's lovely. We owe a lot to the Rossolots. That farmers market quickly became the most visited. I mean, outside of downtown Cincinnati, I think it's the most visited in our area, with a wonderful collection, not just of local farmers' produce, but also breads and preserves and soaps and any number of lovely handmade articles that really enrich, I think, anybody's life that comes down. I think it's been a wonderful amenity for the township.
Yeah. You know, it actually started before the township hosted it in 2008. and it took place at Jim and Linda Rosselow's property, the feed barn. They had a unorganized farmers market, if you will, for years before we asked them to let's do something on a bigger scale. And when they first took it over, there were dozens of people. Then all of a sudden, scores started lining up, then hundreds, and I wouldn't be surprised if over 1,000 people regularly attended each and every Saturday. Now, I'm usually only there for a half hour, so I'm not there the entire period, but when I'm there, it is packed. There are easily hundreds of people there, and it was under their leadership that they took this thing and made it what it is today, which is, I think, one of the best, if not the best, farmers market in all of Southwest Ohio.
I love the farmers market.
Plus, you can also get good advice for your own market. I remember asking one guy, how can he possibly raise such beautiful tomatoes? I said, the deer get all mine. He just looked at me and he said, electric fence. Okay, still organic.
So
We will,
and we will ensure that we deliver that to Mrs. Rossello. We do. We have one other presentation for Trustee Stoker. Catherine, if we may ask you to come to the front and center, and on behalf of your peers, Trustee Lee Wong and of course Trustee George Lang, they were very instrumental in wanting to do this for you, and so we would like to present this to you this evening. And originally I actually wanted to invite the staff to come up because it actually is bestowed from them to you as well. So. And actually, I think if anybody wants to come up, come on up, because I believe this really is from the community, a gift from the community. We need to get the right photo op with her in front of Westchester's logo. So. Catherine, I know it was with tremendous honor and sadness.
Don't start.
That this small token of our deepest appreciation for your leadership, your 20-plus years of community service, all of the volunteer hours, and all of the wisdom that you've shared with this community. It is just a very small token of our appreciation to extend this to you and share this with you. And I have the honor of being able to present this to you, of course, on behalf of and because of your peers, Mr. Lang and Mr. Wong. And I'd like to really represent the staff who has so appreciated your support over those 20 years. And we'd like to give to you a key to the city. Key to the Township of Westchester. And as you know, this honor is bestowed very conservatively, and there's only been two people who have received this, and we wanted to make sure you were one of the.
Thank you so much. That is just beautiful. This is really a great honor, and I can only say that my heart goes out to all of you, particularly staff. I've said it over and over that without all you guys, we look like dirt up here. I mean, let's face it, you guys make it all happen. We may be the trustees, and we come in a couple of times a month, and we quote set policy and approve payments. But the fact is, the day-to-day work, the getting out there and shoveling snow 24 hours a day, the dealing with property owners and businesses who come in with challenges that they're trying to work out. You are the guys who are on the line every day, and you have made this township what it is. And it's with just enormous gratitude. I'm pleased to be able to say thank you all so much, because you've been just terrific. And thanks to all of you. A community is only the people that are in it. A community isn't buildings and streets, it's the people. It's those who get out and do for their fellows and really care about the place where they live and work. And you guys personify it, every one of you. You're wonderful, and thank you so very much.
Kathy, I just can't say enough of praise for you. And Judy, how right it is for you to bring the staff up. Because I'm not supposed to talk about what goes on in executive session, so I'm not going to go into any details. But I'm going to tell you, nobody fights harder for the staff than Kathy. She really, when she just said what she said, she means it. It's in her heart. It's in her fiber. The appreciation she has for what everybody does on a day in and day out basis. And she often reminds us, and we appreciate her for reminding us of that. But 20 years, over 25% of your life serving the people. And wait, her service started before the 20 years. I see Donna Nickel and Beth Howard here. It started with Clean, way back before she was even elected. And the battle that they took on against insurmountable odds, against a government that was against their fight, and they didn't back down. You stepped forward, you took that fight on, and every citizen in Westchester today is better off because you guys stepped forward and took that fight on. So thank you very much.
2 words, young and dumb.
No.
Back then we didn't know we couldn't do it. Back then we really believed, Galatians 6:9. Never tire of doing good, you'll succeed if you just don't give up. And we just refused to give up.
All right. Some of your oldest friends are here. She says young and dumb. I say passionate, intelligence, and integrity. Donna, you agree with that? Absolutely. Kathy, you exude that. And positive can-do attitude. You never see an obstacle that you can't overcome. You have this powerful passion for life and a powerful positive attitude that affects everybody around you. And as you guys know, there have been often times when we have been in heated debate, heated discussions, where we are on opposite sides, diametrically opposed to each other. But never once did I ever feel it was personal. It was just, I disagreed with Kathy and she disagreed with me. And I appreciate you, Catherine, for keeping it at such a professional level. And the other thing I really owe you a big thanks for. You have impacted my life in a powerful way, and very few people know about this beyond my wife, and I'm going to share something rather personal. You have a very unique ability that when people come up and they attack you, and sometimes it gets personal, and sometimes it gets real ugly, you never react. You always respond. You stay calm. You stay cool. You stay collected. You stick with the facts. You don't let someone get you sidetracked with emotions. And when I first became a trustee, man, I was like a kid growing up. I agreed with you for about that long, and then I snapped. But because of serving 10 years with you, I'm still not the model you are in terms of being calm and in charge of your emotions all the time. But I know, and my wife will attest to this, I am much better off than I was before I met you. So not only is our community a better place because you are in it, I'm a better man because of my relationship with you. And listen, on behalf of all the citizens of Westchester, we thank you for your service to our community. We love you. Our community is better because of you, and there's a high affinity in this community for Catherine Stoker.
Thank you.
Well, politicians got to talk, right?
Yeah.
More of an engineer, it goes back a long way, Catherine. And I didn't get dynamically opposed with you. I don't think ever. and really only because her heart was right there. Anything she spoke with this township from the heart. She was trying to do what was always in the best interest. There was no personal gain. There was no issue except what was best for this community. And that goes back, I've been at it even longer than 20 years. And every instance that I've encountered with you, right or wrong, if we agreed or disagreed, rarely disagreed, is for the purpose of this community. This community owes a tremendous amount of gratitude to this lady, I tell you. Thank you.
Thank you, Chair. I just want to say thank you so much, and I have to say what you speak of as passion. To me, it's always been my opinion that if somebody tells me no, they just don't have all the facts yet to make the right decision. So I just never take it personally, and I never think the chapter's ended. I just keep right on going, and do my best to hopefully to make a positive impact where I am. So now I'm not leaving the township. I know there's a rumor going around that I wanted to resign and rush off to Colorado. I'm not sure what's in Colorado for me, but that's apparently where I was planning to go. No, this is where all our friends are. This is where my husband's medical team is. I mean, we're not going anywhere. We're staying here. I'll still be doing volunteer service for the community. And I certainly want to appreciate everybody who has spoken. Thank you so much. But really, it's a team effort. No one person can do what we do. And no, Carl, it's not because some magic happens because we sit here on the highway. It's really a lot of people working very, very hard. And a lot of those people include everybody up here and another 200 or 300 besides of not only staff but business people and residents who are all out there doing everything they can to help make this a wonderful community that it is. So thank you again. Thank you. Appreciate it. Thank you.
Okay, let's move on to item B, motion to approve payment of bills. I will entertain a motion.
Also move.
I'll second it.
Discussion? Roll call?
Mr. Wong?
Yes.
Mrs. Stoker?
Yes.
Mr. Lang?
Yes.
Mrs. Boyko, requisitions greater than $2,500.
First item is $30,695.36 to Harris ERP. This is the company that has enterprise resource planning, has taken over the previous billing of MS Govern. This is to renew the annual license and support agreement for GEMS, the financial accounting software. And as the board is aware, this platform, GEMS, manages, operates, handles, executes all of our township financial transactions as recorded. And it is practically required that we approve this. Item 2, administration $6,000 to 5 visual communication and design. As the board is aware, annually we do a community guide that lists all of our community programs, projects, resource numbers, and for a minimal amount we're able to produce thousands of these community guides for the $6,000 fee. Item 3, administration, $4,044 to Esri Incorporated. This is to renew the annual license and maintenance agreement for our geographic information systems mapping. Not only does this handle all of our, as I said, geographic information system, but it's also essential in our mapping functions and compiling of statistical data for asset management and also some of the public safety operations. Item 4, fire, $4,000 to Buckeye Power Sales. Replace logic board in Fire Station 74, the emergency standby power generator. It's essential that these standby generators actually function. Item 5, police, $6,910 to Night Force Optics LLC. This is to replace 4 rifle scopes and 4 ultralight scope rings. This is a capital improvement project proposed for 2013.
I will entertain a motion for item 1 through 5.
I'll make the motion that we approve items 1 through 5.
I'll second.
Discussion? Roll call?
Mr. Wong?
Yes.
Mrs. Stoker?
Yes.
Mr. Lang?
Yes.
Item 6.
Item 6, I will allow or propose this to the Board of Trustees that based on several discussions, it's my understanding that the Board of Trustees would like to consider extending my employment agreement, and this has been scheduled for agenda item number 6.
I'd like to make the motion then that we approve and execute the Township Administrator's employment agreement.
I'll second that.
Discussion?
Just had a few things to say. Not everybody is aware, but Mrs. Boyko has not had an increase in salary for 5 years. This is while our contract employees have had salary increases of typically 2 to 3%. Mrs. Boyko is very modest and retiring in her assessment of her duties, but the fact is she does the work easily of 3 people. She receives, I think, less in compensation than either the cities of Hamilton or Fairfield, and these are administrators there who have assistant administrators. Mrs. Boyko doesn't have an assistant administrator. Mrs. Boyko has been, in the words of our law director, the equivalent of a very high-level paralegal. For years, most of the time I've been here, we had no HR professionals working with us. Judy Boyko did it. Judy Boyko has put her heart and soul into this community and has always been so humble and so retiring. Previously, you had made a request that she receive more funding. I have repeatedly mentioned that she needs a raise, and she always says, no, there are people in this township who aren't getting a raise. I just can't do it. And it's my understanding that after your negotiation with her, you have come to an agreement on some issues, some of which I kind of disagree with, even though I think it's extremely important that we renew the township administrator's employment agreement. Part of it, for example, is a retention bonus, that if she stays for at least 3 years, she would receive a retention bonus of $25,000. I personally think that's silly. I think that there are communities, counties across the state, if not the country, that wouldn't hesitate to offer her twice what she's making now to gain her skills. And so I think that retention payment is really not going to work effectively. I believe Mrs. Boyko doesn't just work for money. I think she works for appreciation. I think she works out of a sense of great pride in this community and great pride and appreciation for all the people with whom she works. I think if you're going to give a retention bonus, it's certainly got to be something more than $25,000. As for the PERS pickup, it's the equivalent of less than our contract employees have been getting all along. So I think it's very modest. I'm knowing Mrs. Boyko, I'm sure with you, she just, and my understanding is you even offered more than
I did.
that, and she just refused to take it.
Yeah. I would just agree with everything you said. In addition, I truly believe she is the best administrator in all of Southwest Ohio, and we're very fortunate that she has chosen to call Westchester home for the past 22 years of her career. When I did sit down to negotiate, you two kind of gave me that power. I was only one of 3. I couldn't make a final decision, but I was able to sit down and enter into the negotiations. When I did that, I actually started with a higher number, and I would just like to add, Judy was, I think the right word is humility, that she displayed during the entire negotiation process. She said, no, that's too much. She's the one that brought the number down. I've never been in a negotiation process where I offered more, less than I thought was fair, and the person said, no, let's make it even lower. And it just goes to Judy's character, who she is. You know, she was very humbled, and the humility that she exhibited during the entire process, especially when we look at what she has accomplished in the last 10 years. You know, the millions that she has saved this township, the projects that have gotten done, the businesses that are here. We could go on and on discussing her accomplishments. So rather than have a debate or a discussion with her, I agreed to the terms that she asked for.
Okay, this is embarrassing. Please move on. Please move along. Please move on. Keep moving.
Well, but it's true. You're absolutely one of the gems in the township's crown. And I just don't think we would be where, I know during, there's all this brouhaha going on during campaigns, and people were alleging our contracts were going over budget, and that's ridiculous. I doubt if I doubt if 10% of our projects went over budget, and if they did, it was probably by less than 1 or 2%. Judy is absolutely death on project managing. She is there every day, checking every single aspect, not only of every single project, every single contract, every single service that we offer, every single financial activity that's going on. She is constantly in total control and command of what's going on, making sure everything's done right, done properly, done with ethically. She doesn't take shortcuts to deprive people of their due for the work they do, of contractors who are working with us. She's never tried to short a contract. The woman is absolutely ethical, absolutely hardworking, and is worth twice what she's being offered in this contract. And I can totally believe, because that's who Judy is. Like I say, she doesn't just work for money, she works for pride and for love of this community. And we are extraordinarily grateful and lucky to have her working with us.
Agreed.
No doubt, she had not had a raise for 5 years, worked alone by herself, no assistance, and spent a lot of time.
I think she must work a 70-hour week.
Actually, it's been 4 years.
So,
Well, it's what, 2009 was her last?
Yeah.
10, 11, 12, 13. It's going to be 14 real quick.
Yeah, we're fixing that now.
Yeah, okay.
anything else? Mr. Jones, roll call.
Mr. Wong?
Yes.
Mrs. Stoker?
Yes.
Mr. Lang?
Yes.
Item 7.
Item 7.
Motion to hire 3 on-call snowplow operators on an as-needed basis for the 2013-2014 winter season at an hourly rate of $15. The additional 3 for the 13 complement that the board did approve previously would be Mr. Michael Amshoff, Mr. Gregory Dobbs. Those 2 positions are effective December 5th, 2013, and Mr. Jeffrey Yeary, effective December 7th, 2013.
I will entertain a motion for item 7.
I move we hire 3 on-call snowplow operators on an as-needed basis as described by Mrs. Boyka.
I'll second that motion.
Discussion? Roll call.
Mr. Wong?
Yes.
Mrs. Stoker?
Yes.
Mr. Lang?
Yes.
Business item, item 8.
As we close your business of 2013 this evening, I would like to set a date for your organizational meeting, recommending and suggesting the date and time of January 14th, 2013 at 6 p.m., which basically introduces and maintains your regular meeting schedule of the 2nd and 4th Tuesdays of the month, if that's acceptable to the board.
Yes. I will entertain a motion for item 8.
I'll make the motion. We approve item 8 and set our organizational meeting for January 14th of 2014.
I'll second.
Discussion? Roll call.
Mr. Wong?
Yes.
Mrs. Stoker?
Yes.
Mr.
And
Lang?
can we correct
Yes.
the agenda?
2014. Item 9.
Thank you very much. Item 9 is staff is proposing the suggested date and time to present the proposed operational budget for 2014 for all the township's primary funds, general, police, fire, and roads funds, for January 21st, 2014 at 5:30 p.m. This date is proposed to the board with the understanding that we would deliver the operational budget workbooks to you no later than close of business Monday, January 13th, 2014, giving you about a week to review the documents and solicit any questions or offer any thoughts that you might have regarding the document. And if that time is not acceptable and you need additional time, we certainly can change the date that's being proposed. It's just the pleasure of the board.
I will entertain a motion for item 9.
I'll make the motion that we approve item 9 and set our proposed operational budget workshop for 2014 for January 21st at 5:30, and that's January 21st of 2014.
I'll second.
Discussion?
Works for me. I know I've already taken liberty of check with Mr. Welch to make sure it fit his schedule. He was fine with it, so.
Yep. Fine. Roll call?
Mr. Wong?
Yes.
Mrs. Stoker?
Yes.
Mr. Lang?
Yes.
Item 10.
Police Department is requesting the board's consideration to motion to dispose of one abandoned vehicle that the police department received through court forfeiture, and this disposal would be done through auction or through salvage dealer.
I will entertain a motion for item 10.
Also move.
I'll second.
Discussion? Roll call?
Mr. Wong?
Yes.
Mrs. Stoker?
Yes.
Mr. Lang?
Yes.
Item 11.
11, a motion not to object to a liquor permit transfer from Parlay Incorporated doing business as Gano Tavern to Gano Tavern LLC doing business as Gano Tavern, first floor and basement and deck, 10024 Cincinnati Dayton Road.
I will entertain a motion for item 11.
Also move.
I'll second.
Discussion? Roll call?
Mr. Wong?
Yes.
Mrs. Stoker?
Yes.
Mr. Lang?
Yes.
Item 12.
Another non-objection to a liquor permit, motion to not to object to liquor permit transfer from Raico Investment LLC, doing business as Akira Japanese Restaurant, to Dancing Roll LLC, doing business as Dancing Roll Japanese Restaurant, located at 7759 Taylorsville Road.
I will entertain a motion for item 12.
I'll make the motion that we not object.
I'll second.
Discussion? Roll call?
Mr. Wong?
Yes.
Mrs. Stoker?
Yes.
Mr. Lang?
Yes.
Item 13.
Proposed resolution, statutory resolution number 21-2013 was presented to the board at your last meeting, December 3rd meeting, requesting the board's consideration to approve this statutory resolution prohibiting the use of engine brakes on State Route 747 within Westshore Township pursuant to Ohio Revised Code Section 505.17. It was asked by the board to table this matter until this meeting so that potentially additional information could be gathered, and we're representing this for the board's consideration.
I will entertain a motion for item 13.
I move we approve statutory resolution number 21-2113, prohibiting the use of engine brakes on State Route 747 within Westchester Township pursuant to Ohio Revised Code Section 50517.
I'll second that.
Discussion? Roll call?
Mr. Wong?
Yes.
Mrs. Stoker?
Yes.
Mr. Lang?
Yes.
Okay, first reading of resolution and reading of emergency resolution.
Yes, sir. Staff is recommending and proposing resolution number 23-2013, which is an emergency reading, approving and authorizing adoption of the Township 2014 temporary appropriations and declaring an emergency and dispensing with the second reading. As you'll see later in the meeting, under discussion items, I will present a summary of the 2013 operational budget and an introduction to the 2014 operational budget. And continuing with current budgetary practices, which I have not heard any objections from the Board of Trustees, it is staff's suggestion that we approve temporary appropriations to allow operations and expenditures through first 4 months of next year as you review your operational budget for 2014. We have presented it this way as part of our budgetary practice because I believe within the funds and the availability of the funds, we would like to present to you a final closeout of one calendar year before we set the final budget and appropriations for the subsequent calendar year. So requesting the board's consideration to consider this as a resolution number 23-2013 as emergency and declare an emergency and dispense with the second reading.
Okay, we'll move on to citizens' comments. Who's quiet? Okay, second reading and vote on pending resolution and vote on emergency resolution. I will entertain a motion to declare resolution number 23-2013 an emergency and dispense with the second reading.
Also move.
I'll second.
Discussion? Roll call?
Mr. Wong?
Yes.
Mrs. Stoker?
Yes.
Mr. Lang?
Yes.
I will entertain a motion to approve resolution number 23-2013 as read and as already declared an emergency.
Also move.
I'll second.
Discussion? Roll call?
Mr. Wong?
Yes.
Mrs. Stoker?
Yes.
Mr. Lang?
Yes.
Discussion items and trustee comments.
I have one formal one that I'll go through very, very quickly, but I did want to, at the board's pleasure, I could address the citizens' comment that inquired about the law director's contract.
Yes.
The contract with the law director does have a renewal, a continuing of 1 year renewal, that if nothing is changed or nothing is modified, that contract automatically extends for 1 year. And it's my understanding that the law director will be discussing more in greater detail with the board on that contract over the next year. So we currently will continue to have law director services. As a limited home rule township, we could not function without a law director. Statutorily could not function without a law director. So that our contract does allow for a continuing 1 year extension should it not be changed or modified in any way.
Yeah, and I also think part of this, Ms. Stoker, to her credit, said as it comes to negotiating and looking at new contracts, unless it was an emergency, let the new board decide that, and this fell into that category. Otherwise, we would be considering that at this meeting or the last one.
Mr. Lang, do you have any comments?
Are you finished? I think you just got started.
Yeah, I just want to do the kind of a
Budget.
recap just before we, as we prepare for the 2014 operational budget work session next year. I wanted to really give you a kind of a summary of highlights closing out 2013, and as we move forward to 2014 very quickly. Focusing first on the summary of 2013, all major funds and general departmental expenditures are under budget, averaging around 8% under budget as we begin to close out 2013. You may recall that in 2013 we emphasized more, or we continue to emphasize the bridge year strategies that were approved in 2012, where we were looking at some examples of those bridge year strategies. We did increase efficiencies and we did reduce costs, while others we are still studying to really determine the final impact. Just to refresh on a couple of them, in the police department, you may recall 12-hour shifts were introduced, and we had a full year of being able to evaluate their effectiveness. We did see a $48,000 reduction in personnel costs because of 12-hour shifts, with a 5% increase in patrol presence. In-field reporting was another element of technology that we implemented as part of the police operations, in-field reporting, and we did see it result in a savings of $46,800 in personnel costs and a 7.5% increase in patrol presence. Well, with in-field reporting and with the 12-hour shifts, we were able to, with that increase in patrol presence, collectively about 13% increase, we were able to, the police department was able to make significant efforts in crime prevention by expanding community outreaches, public awareness through neighborhood watches, programs, unoccupied home checks, and over this past summer they were able to concert efforts in order to address a very, very broad theft from vehicle issue that we were dealing with in the summer. So very, very effective application of those increase in patrol presence. The fire department, they were resulted in a 16% reduction in the number of calls by the fire chief, restructuring the call out of certain apparatus between squads and fire engines and fire apparatus. So there was a 16% reduction in the times multiple vehicles or apparatus went out to a call. So that was a success. Regarding video conferencing, of the 34 times that a vehicle or and firefighters were dispatched to a scene, 34% of the time while they were in video conferencing, they were called out and they were able to reduce response time on those calls by 15 seconds and fuel costs by 12%. So that's, again, another success that we achieved. In addition to implementing, the fire chief was re-looking at the way they replace some of the vehicles, specifically the squads. By redeploying some of the apparatus, they are able to achieve a 30% savings in the cost to replace a medic by replacing just the chassis, and that will extend also the use of that fleet. In the services world, deploying cartograph allowed us to restructure our snow routes, resulting in greater coverage with no increase in cost. We staggered and hired our scheduling of seasonal employees, which resulted in a $31,000 savings or cost reduction to our seasonal costs by staggering that hiring and the scheduling. In 2013, we strived to continue our right-sizing of our organization, and there was a 12% decrease in full-time equivalent positions from 2007 positions to 2013. So we did see a 12% decrease in that. Specifically, over the last year, we reduced costs in operational costs and personnel costs by $100,000 by consolidating the Westchester TV and the Public Relations Office. We're able to consolidate those and achieve $100,000 savings. In addition, with vacating a full-time reception position through a promotion, we're able to save about $10,000 by replacing that with a part-time position. And then technology, our telestaff introduction reduced staff time by 15% and reduced costs by $30,000. We introduced leveraging assets as part of the 2012 Bridge Year strategies, and we've been able to continue an expanded shared service with the County Engineer's Office, reducing our costs to our paving program by $500,000, and then also by sharing in-kind services, reducing our costs even further by another $200,000. 2013, we're closing out, books are not yet closed, so these are estimates, been projecting out to the end of the year, but we're anticipating that our revenues that were received, we're pretty close to online with our budgeted revenues. We did experience a 0.5% decrease in property values for this collection year, and it was effective as part of this collection year. Let's talk a little bit about the property values, and as you know, this is the third straight year we have experienced a reduction in property values, although very minimal, 0.56%. Previous years were 3%, 5%, but the greatest impact that the property value reductions has had on our primary funds has been to the police fund, as you know. We are receiving about $800,000 less a year than what was certified as part of the levy in 2010. However, the police chief and his staff has done a tremendous job in trying to identify these greater efficiencies in operations that extend our resources further and or reduce our operating costs even more. So he's done an excellent job in trying to reduce that delta between what was anticipated in collections versus what we're actually collecting. And I do need to share that although ongoing discussions with the FOP collective bargaining units regarding cost reduction and containments have not necessarily resulted in anything of substantial lowering of those concessions, we're committed to ensuring that at a minimum that levy life is extended to at least 5 years, and then at the earliest possible to the voters in 2016, if even that. Of course, that's a decision by the Board of Trustees. Talk about on a brighter note, JED revenues have augmented revenue losses or decreases to our general fund, and it proves to be a very viable revenue source for operations. The hotel tax has been pretty constant over the last several years, although there was a slight dip when the economy began to struggle. We've seen pretty consistent hotel tax revenues around the $750,000 range. Looking into 2014, very briefly, we will continue to implement and apply bridge year strategies, continuous improvement of looking at opportunities to create greater efficiencies and reduce our costs in our operations. There are, I think I would like to, just on an editorial side note, that as the economy continues to struggle, staff has really been considering and looking at, how do we continue to maintain the value of our properties, because that is critical as a township form of government, and the majority of the revenues received, the primary source of our revenues is through our property tax collections. So it's indicative that we maintain operations, program, policies of this Board of Trustee that sustain the value of our properties. And so we have, as a team, really begin to, or continue to, work, think, believe, come up with ideas that will maintain and sustain that property, the importance of that property value. Looking at 2014 revenues, As I said, these are the 2013 numbers are not final, but as we look toward 2014 operational budget, just want to give you a general sense of what we're looking at in terms of revenues. Even though the economy is somewhat stabling, although it's not out of its challenging times, and the macroeconomy, we are continuing to look at our revenue sources that adjust because of that current situation of the macroeconomy. Specifically, anything that assumes indirect effects to that economy, fuel tax, with the motor vehicle tax, hotel tax, interest earned on revenue, or interest earned on our resources. Looking at a 2% reduction 2014 for our property tax collection. The local government fund, we always project less than what the state assumes, and that has served us well because there have been years that we did not receive what the state had allocated. The elimination of the tangible personal property tax, the phase down of that elimination, that is this is the last year that we received a payment from the phase down of the tangible personal property tax schedule, and so that will no longer be a resource. And in previous years, it's been about $500,000 across all the primary funds, and it will be the continued repeal of the estate tax. So again, another year. Even though this was repealed this year in 2013, the township did receive about $500,000 in estates that are still being settled. And so, but as the longer that repeal is in place, then the likelihood of receiving and the probability of receiving estate tax will be obviously directly proportionate to that. Proposing for JED, pretty consistent with what we've collected, but always anticipating that because of the economy, looking at about a 25% reduction in what we received for this year. And then looking at the expenses very briefly. Consistent with our commitment to continuous improvement, the 2014 budget process continues to formulate more precisely our largest expense, which is personnel. We're looking at how do we account for more precisely those personnel costs. The general fund's budget expense of $7.5 million is more than the 2013 budget expenses, but it does address adding capacity for, as you know, a 20% increase in health care, and that's going to be across all of the funds. The general fund budget also looks at a $250,000 undetermined capital improvement proposal for revitalization of U.S. Route 42. Again, these are just proposals to the board that you'd have to contemplate and ultimately approve if you would wish to proceed with those. The increase in the 2014 budget also accommodates a $270,000 payment to the city of Fairfield for contract obligations as part of the JED contract. They were required to submit, as part of their contribution to the JED, submit payments for Lakota on behalf of GE Aviation, and there was a reconciling at the end of 60 months and at the end of 124 months. We are coming upon that 60-month reconciliation, and payment is due to them of $270,000. Consideration of about $70,000 for ADA improvements to Keener Park. We will continue contributions again at the board's consideration to Partners in Crime and to the National Museum of Broadcasting for the Voice of America. The Roads Fund is pretty much consistent with previous years at $4.3 million proposed expenses, and this does include as revenue the $1.5 million transfer, as does the expense to the general fund of that $1.5 million transfer as expense. Emergency Communications proposed budget is slightly less than $1.7 million, which is less than last year's budget, or this year's budget, 2013. And as you know, the Emergency Communications operations affects both police and the fire levy funds as they share these costs. The one thing, as the board is aware, and that's been discussed, is that there's the proposed budget, whatever's presented at the beginning of the year, may be needed to be modified just based on pending discussions for certain shared services with Emergency Communications. Police Fund is nearly $14.5 million as presented, which is a slight increase over this year's budget of $14.1 and $1 million. And some of those are attributed to, we're going to continue with the general fund receipts of those that are attributed to police operations that were previously deposited into the general fund. We're going to continue with that transfer, or I shouldn't say transfer, that deposit directly to the police fund. Also continue with a mechanic being paid from the fire fund. One thing that's being considered, and of course it requires the Board of Trustee approval, is to, and discussions will continue through 2014, is considering operations of a internal police impound lot that would allow for new revenue source with no increase to cost, or minimal increase to cost, I should say. And we will have a formal business plan to the board to present to you sometime in the first quarter of next year. We talked about all of the benefits of the infield reporting and the altering of the shifts, but still that $800,000 difference needs to be made up during the life of this levy. And always, again, looking at the primary costs of the police and fire funds, because they are so labor intensive, is our personnel costs. So in order to effectuate a significant change in operations, need to look at those operational costs. And we have been trying to, through attrition, through redeployment of resources, decrease the size of the police department, and further reductions potentially will be necessary, and it's just some discussions that the board's going to have in the year 2014. And lastly, the Fire and EMS Fund. There is a proposed budget of about $14.7 million, which is a $2 million increase from 2013's budget. And I believe I'd like to extend the majority of that increase is through capital improvements. There's a required longevity or extension of life of their SCBA masks, and those are required to be purchased next year. Tony is striving, Chief Beller is striving to get a grant to help offset some of that $500,000 cost for those masks. But if the grant is not achieved, then those costs will be assigned to the fire fund. So that is a significant increase. Also, as part of the proposal is to replace a fire engine at $600,000, and also a life squad at about $225,000. So those total about $1.4 million, $1.3 million, which is a major chunk of the $2 million increase. So I just wanted to give you that quick overview, knowing that we are fine-tuning the operational budget for 2014, and we will have that more formally in detail presented to you at your work session.
Thank you, Judy.
Thank you. Somebody?
I would just like to wish everybody a safe and happy holiday season, and Kathy, may you live well. I know you have a new addition, and when you said earlier you have no doubt the next 20 years will be better than the past.
Absolutely.
I believe you.
Every 20 years is better than the 20 years before, and I'm not making that up. It's true. I think all of us, as we go through life, we either learn to, what can I say, roll with the punches, appreciate the good things, learn from the negative consequences. I always used to tell my son growing up that the negative feedback you make from poor choices is the tuition you pay in learning a lesson. And the trick is everybody makes mistakes, just don't pay that tuition twice. You know, go on, making the same mistakes over and over is boring, you know. We need to go on and have more interesting mistakes and more interesting challenges. And I'm looking forward. I think the next 20 is going to be great. And can't begin to say how much I'm looking forward to it. Our son, as most people know, lives with his lovely wife and their brand new baby daughter in California, so I'm looking forward to spending many winter months in California without having to worry about rushing back for a township meeting. I did have a couple of things I wanted to bring up and just take the opportunity, if I could, at this time. I've had a wonderful 20 years, and I wouldn't change a minute of it. It's been great. Everybody heard about things that have happened around here, the Union Center Boulevard interchange and the increase in jobs and all these other things which came in. But I think even more important than that is the people that you meet as you go along the way. I've met wonderful people. Our staff can't be beat by any community. All the trustees I've worked with, and I didn't even try to add them up over the years, have been a wonderful learning experience. We don't always agree, as you mentioned before, but I think we all honestly are trying to do the best we can for our community. And we find ways, even within our realms of disagreements, we can find ways that we can agree to help the community. I just wish the federal government could work as well. There's no sin in disagreeing. There's no sin in having a different philosophy of government. But I think there's enormous sin if you don't get the job done. You know, we aren't sent here just to have interesting discussions and photo ops. We are sent here to do the business of the township. And for the last 20 years, all the trustees I've worked with, we have all worked together to make this township what it is today. And I think we've brought a great benefit to it. We've seen a lot of things going on, not just, like I say, all the tens of thousands of new jobs, but some things like quadrupling the park space we have. We did that without adding a cost to acquire the land. Between the Voice of America Park, between selling the McGinnis Park, 45 acres, to buy 150 acres of the Beckett Ridge Park. The new amenities for our residents, which also help our businesses. Things like our new library, the new 3 major retail centers, 10 new hotels, counting the 2 that are being under construction. A lot of these amenities, there are some people in the community on the east side who believe their taxes paid for the library, paid for the park development. They didn't. That was 100% paid for by the commercial development. That came in as a consequence of us putting in the Union Center Boulevard and interchange. And none of this would have been possible without the teamwork both of all of us trustees working together, as well as our staff, as well as the developers, the business owners, the property owners. A lot of people aren't aware that the Union Center Boulevard, when it was created, the township didn't have to pay for any right-of-way. 100% of it was donated, about the equivalent of $7 million worth, was donated by all the farmers like Wally Schultze and the Bowmans and the Minguses and all the rest of the farmers and the developers who had picked up the land for about 18 grand an acre. Larry Schumacher, of course, huge. Charlie Chappell. Donated all that land and then accepted a benefit assessment. We added all that together, plus I think the city of Fairfield gave us $1 million because Union Center Boulevard was going to be going into Fairfield once it came going through Westchester into Fairfield and Hamilton. City of Hamilton gave us $2 million. And then we used the borrowing power of the county and the township administrator, brought it all together, made it happen. But it wouldn't have happened without everybody sitting down and instead of saying, gimme, 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 instead of saying, well, he's getting more than I am, instead they sat down and said, what can we do to make this happen? And then they did it. Amazing, amazing. And because of that, then we had the funding coming in to pay for things like a new police department, new fire headquarters, park development, library, more infrastructure for other commercial development. It's just been an amazing, amazing journey. But in addition to the things that happened were the services. We created brass schools. Remember the random acts of simple kindness affecting local seniors? That's where we put together hundreds of volunteers twice a year to go out and help our seniors with seasonal chores so they can stay independent in their own homes. Now, this isn't just a nice thing to do. This saves the taxpayer money because every senior that you can keep independent in their own home for an extra year, 2 years, 3 years, saves a fortune for the taxpayer not paying to put them in a Medicare or Medicaid funded nursing home. It's where good deeds meet common sense. And together they save the taxpayers money and make everybody's life so much better. In fact, I was just out talking to somebody who represents our local carpenters union who says, hey, listen, we want to help out more. We helped with the Station Road Schoolhouse, getting that together and renovating it. We'd like to do more. And so I plan to continue my volunteer work. There's always things we've done, and I think the volunteers are really the heart of any community, and I certainly don't plan to stop volunteering just because I'm not coming down to the meetings. Free concerts in the park, that's primarily our banks sponsored that. And banks are doing well because of Westchester's business development, but they aren't just grabbing the money and taking it out of the community, they're giving back to it. We have concerts Thursday evening at the Square. We have concerts Saturday evenings at Keener Park. Many opponents, I've spoke particularly of Chris Wennerberg, people who fought as strong as they could to keep me from getting elected the first 2 times, have become respected friends and allies. Chris and I don't always agree, but we respect each other. He's an intelligent man of character and integrity, and I recognize that. And he's got a lot of wisdom to share. And I've always found that, in fact, people who have wanted to run for office come to me and ask for advice. And I said, first thing you need to do is talk to people who don't agree with you. I said, you might learn something. I have probably been best known as a whistleblower. Long before I ever became a trustee, I was working in the community over concerns I had. When we first moved to Westchester, you knew driving down Highway 75 when you were driving past Westchester because you could smell the raw sewage in the sewer plant there at the Upper Mill Creek plant. People in the higher elevations, like in Pisgah, would run out of water in summertime. Well, the problem was there had been a great deal of development, primarily residential, in the 70s and 80s, and the county commissioners hadn't bothered to maintain the capacity in the water and sewer systems necessary to carry the new burden. We brought it to their attention, and guess what? They didn't care. They didn't care. And I can tell you one of the reasons why was in order to pay for improving the sewer capacity and improving our water storage capacity would have required larger hookup fees for developers. And at that time, county commissioners were either developers themselves, real estate agents themselves, or their campaigns were paid for in large part by the developers. But as I'm fond of saying, I don't take no for an answer. I worked with our group, CLEAN, Citizens Lobby for Environmental Action Now, and we all of us got together and said, this has got to change. And one of the most hardest working members of CLEAN was, of course, Beth Hauer, who has spoken before. Beth did all the research on our sewer and water problems, trying to figure out why were we having the troubles we were having, and define the problem. And then came to me and said, okay, here's what the problem is. She said, I'll do the sewer, file the verified complaint for the sewers if you'll do the water. I said, sure, the water was easy. They were running out of water. It's illegal, it turns out. Beth discovered it is illegal to be running out of water, literally. Ohio Revised Code says that you must maintain a minimum water pressure of 55 pounds per square inch within your water lines. The reason for that is if the pressure within the lines drops below the pressure outside the lines, if there are any flaws or cracks in your water line, the outside pressure will push contaminants into the water line. So it's a case of safety, number one. Number two, we had companies like Myers, like Bakery Craft, who were delaying the building of their facilities here because they weren't sure we would have enough water pressure for them to operate their sprinkling system should they have a fire. So it was not only impacting the residents' lives, it was not only against the law, it was also impacting our commercial development. So I filed the verified complaint for water, which brought findings and orders against the county, ordering them to upgrade their system. Beth Hauer filed the verified complaint regarding our sewer problems, which brought findings and orders plus a $100,000 fine against the county. And guess what? They said, stuff it. So we went to Ohio EPA showing all the proof of all the problems and why it was dangerous, why it was a problem, and they said, stuff it. So then we went to the U.S. EPA. As I'm fond of saying, when somebody tells me no, I figure they just don't have enough information to make the right decision. So we went to the federal EPA, and they didn't do anything. So then it rose to the level of who knew the FBI had an environmental enforcement branch. And the word came down, fix it. So finally, it took 5 years of hard work. But by 1996, when the Union Center Boulevard opened, we had our sewer capacities, not only at the Upper Mill Creek, but also the Swordsville plant, had been virtually doubled. We had virtually doubled the storage capacity of our water system, so people weren't running out of water anymore, and we didn't have water restrictions on. And an additional problem we had with the infectious waste incinerator that we had been complaining for years was being operated illegally. Finally, in 1995, the year after I was first took office, one of their employees got up and blew the whistle and said, yeah, we really have been breaking the law all along, just like the clean members said they were. And that was shut down. So that was in 1995, was the same year that the TID levied what I have always said and believe could prove was an illegal license plate tax on us. I wasn't going to take that. I went to the TID, I went to the trustees, I said, this is illegal. They said, so what? This is money we want to use to build the interchange. I said, but it's illegal. It's theft from our taxpayer. We don't care. We want that money. So I've got together 4 attorneys who work pro bono for me. We filed a lawsuit against the TID and Michael Fox, and they gave up, stopped. And guess what? We still built the interchange. And ever since then, vehicle owners in Westchester have been saving close to $2 million a year, stayed in their pockets. In 2001, the county commissioners passed what I considered to be an unnecessary sales tax increase. So I put together a small army of 70 to 80 people. We raised 26,000 signatures in 2 weeks. And the county commissioners, to put it on the ballot, the county commissioners, seeing that we were going to have no trouble getting it on the ballot, stopped that. That was another savings for our taxpayers of over $70 million, stayed in their pockets. So you can see this is one of the things like Skinner landfill site. I bugged them so much getting that clean. Earth Tech filed a plea with the court, and they passed told me to stay off the property, which was okay. I just sent in spies with cameras because I kept finding places where they were taking shortcuts on what the judicial consent decree was, order, and how they were to cap the Skinner landfill site. And I'm sorry, they're supposed to do a certain job. They're being paid $4 million to do it. They need to do it right. I have one last whistle that I do need to blow, and that is something I want to pass out to you. I'm sorry this is my last meeting, but here it goes. You might want to give one. During the last week before the election, Mr. Jones sent out an email to an awful lot of people wherein he said that since day one, Mr. Wong and Mrs. Stoker have barred your elected fiscal officer from attending the township's executive session. Now, it's my personal belief that if Mr. Jones had said that under oath, he could have been convicted of perjury, because, of course, it's not true. Mr. Jones attended. Let me ask you, Mr. Wong, do you remember being in an executive session with Mr. Jones when he first became on board?
Yes.
Do you remember? We sat down and talked about. So he has attended an executive session. He says that he has document on videotape saying that we barred our fiscal officer from township executive sessions, which is not true. We have a number of times discussed the fact that, and the majority of the board set a policy that only those people who were germane to the discussion of the evening would come into executive session. Mr. Jones has never been barred, and as I said, he actually has attended a meeting, and he would, under our policy, attend future meetings if his input was appropriate to the discussions at hand. Now, in addition, in this email, Mr. Jones has, I believe, knowingly revealed information which was protected by attorney-client privilege. Now, the Ohio Revised Code 102.03b says, no present or former political official or employee shall disclose or use without appropriate authorization any information acquired by the public official or employee in the course of the public official's or employee's official duties that is confidential because of statutory provisions or that has been clearly designated to the public official or employee as confidential when that confidential designation is warranted because of the status of the proceedings or the circumstances under which the information was received, and preserving its confidentiality is necessary to the proper conduct of government business. Ohio Revised Code 102.99 says in part, whoever violates Ohio Revised Code 102.03 of the Revised Code is guilty of a misdemeanor of the first degree. Ohio Revised Code 2929.24 says in part, if the sentencing court imposing a sentence upon an offender for a misdemeanor elects or is required to impose a jail sentence on the offender for a misdemeanor of the first degree, it should be not more than 180 days. Now, it is my belief that on November 3rd, Bruce Jones distributed an email wherein he allegedly revealed information that he knew was protected by attorney-client privilege. I believe that he knew he was not allowed to disseminate that information, and because of that, and because the dissemination of protected attorney-client privileged information has the capacity for bringing down on the township both significant financial detriment, significant detriment to the reputation for professionalism in our township, and because I don't believe we should tolerate law breaking, particularly not law breaking by elected officials. I have for over 20 years spent a good deal of my time documenting law breaking by elected officials, and I see no reason to stop now. Therefore, I am making a motion at this time that the email distributed by Bruce Jones last month that allegedly revealed attorney-client privileged information be sent along with any other related documents that may apply to both the Butler County prosecutor and to the Ohio Ethics Commission for their review and research and appropriate action, and I'm hoping I have a second.
I'll second it.
Okay, discussion?
Yeah, I would like to table this. I mean, this is all new to me, first time I heard it. I'd like to talk to our law director one-on-one, get his advice.
George, this is my last meeting.
So I'm asking to table it. I'm used to counting to two. If you guys want to move forward without me, you can. But I would be very much against making this decision without having time to think about it or even consider the facts.
I am not asking us to make a judgment on this. I am asking us to send it to the people who are equipped to make that judgment, basically the Butler County prosecutor and the Ohio Ethics Commission.
And my position is still the same. If you're asking for me to support that, I'd like to do some research and make sure I would be comfortable supporting it, because right now I am not.
Well, Mr. Jones broke the law, and he's
I'd be very careful how you say that.
Yes.
I think he's...
Ms. Stoker never said Mr. Jones broke the law.
I said I have alleged he has broken the law.
There's a huge difference in that verbiage.
Well,
You need to be very careful how you say this.
All right.
And that's
Take
the
that
motion
back.
I have made.
Alleged that he broke the law.
And that's in the motion. He allegedly revealed attorney-client privileged information. I believe that he knew it was attorney-client privileged information. I believe he knew that he was prevented by law from divulging that, and I believe he did it anyway. And I believe we should be sending this information. If it's just the average person, the average Joe does things and says things they shouldn't. I believe an elected official should be held to a higher authority. I think an elected official should not break the law. And I think if an elected official breaks the law, the very least we can do as elected officials is to say, let's have the experts look at this and make a determination. Now, I believe he broke the law. I have alleged he broke the law. I am requesting, and I have made the motion, that we ask appropriate And the appropriate people would be the county prosecutor and the Ohio Ethics Commission. Let them review it. Let them make the decision.
Yeah. And my request is still the same. I'd like to table this to the next meeting. There's a chance I'm going to be exactly where you're at, but this is the first I've had to consider this, and I think it's a very drastic step, and I just want to make sure it's necessary.
I have to disagree with that because I suspect you also received this email, so you've had a whole month. Are you sure you didn't? I believe you did.
Kathy, right now I'm not even sure what email you're talking about.
Well, it's the one I copied it in there. It's the one he sent out on November 3rd where he said that falsely that Mr. Wong, and he said he had a documented videotape, which is not true, that Mr. Wong and Mrs. Stoker have barred your elected official from attending the township.
You know, it is true. We've had public discussions about him not attending the executive session, and you guys were always 2-1 against me with him not attending. So I know we've had public discussions right here at this dais, not in that room.
And that's
but
not,
right
my
here.
motion doesn't concern that. On that particular issue, we've had frequent discussions about
Numerous.
how the only people who, majority of board's opinion was the only people who belong in the executive session are the people who have input into the discussions being involved. We're in there discussing employees who are applying for disability consideration. We have discussions of contract negotiations.
Sometimes.
We have discussions of lawsuits. There is no place for some curious looky-loo to sit in there, particularly when the leaking of that kind of sensitive information can end up causing us to be sued, can end up causing us to lose, say, an important project. Maybe there's an entity coming down here and says, you know, it's very important to me that you keep this very confidential. We have been in those circumstances. Suppose we have some looky-loo who had no business being there, literally no business to be in there, and he starts chatting. Number one, chatting about anything he heard, or number two, heaven forbid, lying about what he heard. It is just poor policy to have looky-loos sitting in on executive session. And that is what our discussion has been off and on. This is not a banning because at any time in the future where the discussion under effect would be to concern the sphere that Mr. Jones operates, he would have been invited in. So that's not a ban. It was a policy.
I would vociferously disagree with you. For the 10 years I've been on this board, the 8 years before Bruce became fiscal officer, the fiscal officer was always involved. We can't identify one other fiscal officer in the state of Ohio that is not allowed in executive sessions except for ours.
The motion before the board is I have alleged that Mr. Jones has broken the law, and I am asking the board to pass the information on to the Butler County prosecutor and the Ohio Ethics Committee to make the actual determination of did he or didn't he.
Well, my request is the same. I may be exactly where you're at. This is the first time I've seen or heard this. I would just like 2 weeks to ponder it.
And I would like to have this taken care of in my last meeting here on the board.
Well, I think you and I are on opposite sides. Mr. Wong?
We've been there before, right?
No doubt about it.
Well, I think we have all the discussion made here. Mr. Jones, roll call.
Mr. Wong?
Yes?
Mr. Lang?
No.
Mrs. Stoker?
Yes.
Okay. I will entertain a motion to adjourn the regular meeting and go into executive session with legal counsel for the purpose of considering and discussing 1. Personnel matters. A. Discuss contract negotiations for a certain collective bargaining unit. 2. Acquisition, sale, and swap of real property. And 3. Current and pending litigation. The board will return.
I'll second.
Discussion? Roll call?
Mr. Wong?
Yes?
Mr. Lang?
Yes.
Mrs. Stoker?
Yes.
I would like to reconvene on the matter, this trustee meeting on the matter we discussed in the executive session. Anyone make a motion? Read the motion.
Sure, if you're going to entertain a motion, I'd like to make a motion that we approve and execute settlement agreement and full and final release of all claims for Perso claim number 0TR013488A1.
I'll second it. Discussion? Roll call?
Mr. Wong?
Yes.
Mrs. Stoker?
Yes.
Mr. Lang?
Yes.
I will entertain motion to adjourn this meeting.
Also move?
Discussion? Roll call?
Mr. Wong?
Yes.
Mrs. Stoker?
Yes.
Mr. Lang?
Yes.
Meeting adjourned.